Okay, good morning. Hey, good morning, Ramen. How you doing today? How are you feeling? I hope you're feeling better than what you had been. Uh, I know you've been sick and migraine-ish. Locked out? Oh no. Ah, that's I tell you. Oh man, that's bad. Oh well, you'll get over it. As usual, this is Monday morning. So, and y'all know what happens on Mondays. It's infusion day. And unfortunately, it's starting to look like I am not going to get on the new drug. That means that instead of a 5-minute process in the morning, I'm stuck with this multi-hour process on Mondays. The insurance company is saying that they would rather be paying for this than for the new drug. So I'm stuck with this. I'm still fighting it, but I think it's a losing fight. I really do. I think it's a losing battle at this point. You got up early for me. Well, thank you. So, anyway, let's start off with this. Okay. Now, we all know what a B 2 bomber looks like. Okay. A B 2 bomber, the thing is massive. The thing is absolutely huge. Uh, and I mean, I would not under any circumstances want. I don't want to have to work on one. Well, I didn't. I did years ago when they first came out and they were first talking about it. I really wanted to be on one, but then it didn't happen. So what can I say? But here is an image of a B 2 bomber with its allowable payload. Okay. That is what a B 2 can carry. Think about it. That is a lot of armament. None of that is small. Yet, for some reason, Iran wants us to think that this is a picture of a B 2 that they shot down. Okay? Don't you just love, I mean, seriously, don't you just love Photoshop and AI and all this other good stuff? They want that to be this. Oh no, I accidentally closed that tab. I didn't want that tab to be closed. What was it? Control H, if I remember right. Yes. Mm. Oh, no, 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 no. Why did I do that? How did I do that? I accidentally closed the tab with the real pic with that picture on it. Ah, here we go. Okay, there we go. They want us to believe that that other picture that these are both photographs of the same aircraft. Just the scale is all wrong. Just AI, Photoshop, however they wanted to do it, they did it. That is not a picture of a down B-2. They would have been more realistic building up a diorama and taking a picture, from a distance instead of trying to do a nice close up where you can see the Iranian flag and people standing there all braggy about it. So, yeah, we know that this didn't happen. They've been bragging all over the place saying that they've shut down the B-2. We know they didn't do it. So, my personal opinion on this whole mess, okay? My personal opinion. Trump had done during his first term, Trump had did an amazing job with not getting the United States involved in new wars. And for him to do this, I have to trust that he had a lot of data at his fingertips that we don't have. We didn't have at the time, we don't have now. Okay, he's proven himself not to be a warmonger. So he had information there. A lot of it is still classified. We'll probably see it in 60, 70 years. The Democrats are out there yelling and screaming about, that this was an unconstitutional move. Well, they're, supposedly, I've read reports and such that, first of all, we know according to the War Power Acts that the president can do what he wants to. He only has to notify Congress within 48 hours of the event. He, according to reports that I've read, he notified the leaders of the Republican Party, and Chuck Schumer could not get a hold of Jeffries for one reason or another prior to the bombs actually dropping. How soon prior to the bombs actually dropping, I am not 100% certain because some of the reports are a little varied on that. And why Hakeem Jeffries was unavailable for contact, who knows? If this is all true, fine and dandy. But much like Obama and GW and W, well, W and G and George Herbert and Bill Clinton, All these presidents have taken action with military forces and then afterwards notified Congress that they'd done it after the action had been completed. And for the most part, nobody complained. There not, wasn't hundreds of people and some elected officials yelling out there that that president, especially Obama, needed to be impeached and removed from office for unconstitutional actions. War Powers Act simply says he has to notify Congress within 48 hours. He notified the whole world within 48 hours. And as I said, supposedly he notified the leadership of both parties, or at least attempted to notify the leadership of both parties in both houses prior to. As much as I dislike Chucky Schumer, on occasion he knows when to keep his mouth shut. If he chose anybody who, think about this. Could you imagine Ilhan Omar? Could you imagine any one of the squad? Could you imagine AOC? Could you imagine these people being notified of this in advance of them keeping their mouths shut and not going public? There are more than, I'd say, 5 or 6 dozen Democrats I wouldn't trust to keep a secret, even if that secret was how much money I had in my pocket. I wouldn't trust them, let alone trust them to keep a national secret. Eric Swalwell, can you imagine him keeping a secret? The man that was sleeping with a Chinese spy? Can you imagine Senator Padilla, the man who verbally attacked Kristi Noem during a press conference, barged into her press conference? Can you imagine him keeping a secret? Maxine Waters, imagine her keeping a secret. I, it's it's not going to happen. If they can use it to hurt Trump, they're going to do it. So yeah, and like I said, I've got to trust Trump based upon his actions of his first term that he knew what he was doing and that this attack was the only thing he could possibly do to prevent even more damage. As they've said, it takes a long time to take materials needed to 60% pure for use in a nuclear weapon. But it only takes a few weeks to go from 60 to 90, which is what's needed for a nuclear weapon. And Iran has been going at 60 and above for a long time. Hey, morning, Paul. How's it going? So there's those issues there. Iran did sign on to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Act years ago. And it's pretty well given that they've violated that treaty. There's only, I think, 4 countries that did not sign on to it, and 2 of them were India and Pakistan. So Yeah, there's those issues. Hi, sweetie. How's your gardening going? Yes, it is. Yes, it is warm out there. That's why I'm in here. Put the other what? Tables. Okay. Ooh, I may have to end the stream early. She's going to go back and get a shower. The, what the look I just got. Oh, hey, sweetheart, before I forget, I the that open package of paper for the printer. Okay, I put the last of it in the printer this morning. All right. So back to them. Just had they. Ooh, nice. I drove a truck for years that did not have air conditioning. In fact, two of my vehicles in a row had no AC, and I mean, I drove the hell out of both of them. And when I finally did get, yeah, yeah, oh yeah, Data. I showed him those shorts. She loved them. By the way, good morning. Found some new ones too. They of somebody did AI of cats and dogs doing 3 meter dives, springboard dives into the water. These guys are really getting good with AI. That's why, since AI has gotten so great, that's why we cannot trust any photographs. We simply can't trust them. We can't, uh, we can't trust photographs. We can't trust movies. You can't trust them without verification. So, especially if they're coming, while we can't trust them from coming from our government, we can't trust them coming from foreign governments. So we, that's, it's not just the CIA data. I mean, it's the Democratic Party, it's the Republican Party, it's the FBI, it's your local mayor, your local Congress critter. If you think for one moment that you can trust them to tell you the truth, and with AI being as simple to operate now, there's a guy on the internet who does the Sasquatch Yeti videos. And they're absolutely hilarious. They really and truly are. Uh, but for $29, he, he'll tell you exactly how he does them. And if I had a better computer than what I've got, I'd be tempted to spend that $29. But I'm not willing to spend uh, $2,500 to get a computer that's worth that I know I could do that with. Like I said, as much as I'd love to, uh, the wife and I got into a discussion this weekend, and it looks like I'm going to end up doing it anyway. Um, about buying a gas powered pressure washer because and the one I bought that I thought I'd be able to do what I want to do with it I can't do it. It doesn't work. It's taken me a week to pressure wash a 25 by 25 concrete patio. I'd hate to, it'd take me, and I'm still not done. It's just I haven't worked on it every day. I just don't have time to work on it every day. Speaking of that, did I take that battery off the charger? Oh no, it's been on the charger too long. That's not good at all. So anyway, don't trust them. But we do have another problem though. And this is, I honestly believe it's a serious problem. Okay. Thanks to Biden, the Democrat, thanks to Biden, thanks to Kamala, thanks to Mayorkas, our southern border has been wide open for the past 4 years. And very seriously, we have no clue who all has come across that border. Hey, morning, citizen. I'm I'm like I said, I'm not going to get into the AI business here at home because I just maybe I'm AI graphics. It's not that I'm not interested in it. It's not that I don't appreciate it. It's the fact that I don't have the money to invest into it, and personally I don't see how I can make a cash return on it. You're right, Citizen. All kinds of people did come across the border. Some good, some bad, but they come across, but bunches come across that border illegally. And while I've got my second strike, and I'm in threat of losing my TikTok account because I said if you are in the country illegally, you need to go home. I'll have to bring up what TikTok has given me strikes for. The comments that they've said that I violated TO terms of service on, and then what I got my warning for a year ago, almost a year ago. And now I just actually picked up a strike this past week, for a comment I said that unbelievable that I actually picked. It's unbelievable what I actually picked up the strike for. But th- this is a map that's generally out there. I cannot speak for its validity. I cannot. I do. I find it unbelievable. No, I just can't speak for its 100% validity. I'd like to hope this is overblown. I'd like to hope that this is some fear mongering, but unfortunately, I can't because with our border situation and with what we do know what goes on in this country, and what we do know who has been allowed to come in our country and comments that they've made, that this is something we do have to worry about. Tampa, the Islamic Jihad, Fort Lauderdale, and Boca Raton got Al Qaeda. Over in Orlando, Al Qaeda. In Cleveland, Islamic Jihad and the Muslim Brotherhood. Boston, Al Qaeda and National Islamic Front. New York, of course. New York, you know, Kathy Hochul, Governor Hochul, Mayor Adams. Hezbollah, Jamaat-e-Islami, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah. You know, Indiana, the Muslim Brotherhood, Detroit, Hamas, Hezbollah, Muslim Brotherhood, Chicago, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, Kansas, Hamas, Denver, Al Qaeda, Tulsa, the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, Seattle, Washington, Algerian Armed Islamic Group, Portland, Al Qaeda, San Francisco, Islamic Liberation Party, and Abu Sayyaf. I can't believe I actually remembered how to pronounce that. Santa Clara, Al Qaeda and Hamas. LA, Tucson, Al Qaeda, Hamas. San Diego, American Islamic Group and Algerian Armed Group. Oklahoma, Hamas. Arlington, Texas, Al Qaeda. Dallas, Fort Worth, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah. Houston, Al Qaeda, Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood. A large part of these groups are located in very liberal states. And they do have a few in Texas and here in Florida and in Oklahoma. The problem is if these groups actually exist and these people, well, I know they actually exist. But it's considered racist if we investigate them. The FBI had no problems investigating members of a Catholic church until they got caught on it and questioned in open session in Congress. And then it's like, oh no, yeah, that was wrong. We stopped doing that. As soon as I found out about it, I stopped them because that's the wrong thing for us to be doing. We shouldn't be investigating the Catholic Church. Now, perhaps I'm a little more cynical about this. But if there are members of a Catholic Church that need to be investigated, then investigate the members of the Catholic Church. Investigate the members. Because the Catholic Church is not known for, in the past 100 years, to be attacking cities, blowing planes, using aircraft as bombs, strapping dynamite to children and women and sending them into places and then blowing them up. That's not things that the Catholic Church has been known for doing. But Muslim organizations, I don't care, call me what you will. I am shocked. I'm disgusted by the idea that it is even possible that the FBI, US Marshals have not been investigating these Catholic or these Muslim organizations, that they're protected or were protected under Obama, were protected under Biden, because it had been racist to investigate them. Yeah, I know, Shirley. Shirley's not very serious today. Last week, before these, I think it was before these bombs dropped, I made the comment on the stream that I hope nothing that, that we as a nation, I don't think we're prepared for internal attacks, retribution, because of what uh, because we've allowed so many people in our country without knowing exactly what they are, that we've imported people whose hardcore basic beliefs are totally antithetical to the Western world, and especially to the United States. We've imported people in this country that says this country is the devil, that we are Satan and need to be destroyed. We've imported people into this country that have it as part of their long term plan to destroy the United States and bring us under Sharia law. And I blame every president. I blame the Democratic Party. I blame the press. I blame most of the Republicans because they were too cowardly to admit publicly that bringing some of these people in like that, like they have been under refugee status and whatever into our country, is setting us up for internal attacks by people who hate us. Paul, I'm sure there are some in office that understand it, but they're too cowardly to come out and say it in public because of what the press and the Democrats would say about them. They're too cowardly to you know because one, they know that their political careers would be shortened because the media would be uh, and the Democratic Party especially would spend millions of dollars to get him out of office. And yet I do include the press as part of that spending of millions of dollars because they would blanket the airwaves and the newsprint with cussing them out. But that is a problem that we've got, the see something, say something rule. And it's not just me saying this. This here's an article from The Hill. Threat of sleeper cells in the U.S. has never been higher. The threat of sleeper cells in the United States has never been higher. There are no current specific threats. Memo sent Saturday from CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott, obtained by the Hill Sister Network News Nation, said thousands of Iranian nationals have been documented entering the United States illegally, and countless more likely in the known and unknown gotaways. Though we have not received any specific credible threats to share with you all currently, the threat of sleeper cells or sympathizers acting on their own or at the behest of Iran have never been higher. The memo urged CBP personnel to remain vigilant. It shouldn't be just CBP people being vigilant. It should be every damned American out there remaining vigilant. We should all be looking out and seeing what's going on. From your ports, fuel storage areas. Can you you've got these huge tanks of fuel, gasoline, diesel, sitting there that supply your local gas stations. You've got them at almost nearly every port of entry into the United States and smaller ports. You've got them in the middle of the interior states. Yeah, use the new media to counter the older media. Say something. Again, I'm no expert in this. I'm no expert, but I do have my fears. I do have my concerns. And like I said, I'm prepared for hurricanes. I'm prepared for short-term issues. I'm not prepared for anything lasting more than a couple of months. I'm not physically fit enough to go more than a couple of months. I've got a 90-day supply of most of my pills on hand, and that I needed, and that's about it. No, there are people out there, there are Americans out there who are dependent upon, your local pharmacies, dependent upon the power grid to live. I mean, absolutely, no power, they die. Anyway, I I do not know what we're looking at in the near future or far future. None of us do. All we can do is hope and pray and trust trust our government. But what can I say? We got to trust them. Okay, close that tab. Don't need that open anymore. Yeah, and some people ask, what are sleeper cells? Sleeper cells, they're covert operatives. We've seen the spy movies. Well, hell, just the Black Widow movie. Her parents were sleeper cells in the United States from Russia. Then, they got called back to Russia where the Black Widow was made and her sister were made into the assassins. That is a movie portrayal, comic book style of a sleeper cell. There have been real sleeper cells caught here in the United States. Now, these agents lead seemingly normal lives, integrating into local communities without raising suspicion. However, when triggered, they can execute missions involving espionage, sabotage, and even direct threats. China recently, it was publicized that China, it was recently publicized, let's put it that way, that China expects all Chinese citizens, no matter where they live in the world, to spy for them. So, it's nothing new. The idea of it's nothing new. The fact that there are some in the United States is not a new idea. Not just the United States, but Canada, the UK, scattered throughout Europe. And Europe is more predominantly probably have more than us or the Canada has, for the simple fact that they've had such a large immigrant. I mean, look what's happened to France. There's parts of Paris. I mean, most of Paris is Muslim now. Capital of France, most of it is Muslim. They close down streets 5 times a day for prayer. So, anyway, that's enough about that. Eleanor Norton, Holmes Norton, she is a member of the House of Representatives that she represents Washington, D.C., the residents of Washington, D.C. She's been there forever. I totally disagree with, I don't think it that DC was ever meant to have a sitting representative in either the House or Senate. Remember, the District of Columbia belongs to the federal government. That is the federal government. It was property taken from the surrounding states, 10 square miles. It was there to so that no one state could say that they own the federal government. It is a district unto itself. It's not a state. It would actually, in my opinion, take a change to the Constitution to allow DC to have state powers. The idea that DC should be, locally ran and everything else, I think is pure hogwash. Again, that's my personal opinion. Recently, for the past few years, DC through their local authority, their local, we don't want to be run by Congress. We need to have our own governor, our own mayor, our own yada, yada, yada. They have allowed non citizens to vote in their local elections. Well, once again, it is my opinion that that I don't care who, what, where, or when. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you can't cast a vote in anything. I don't care if it's your local government. I don't care if it's for the school board. I don't care if it's for a dog catcher. You have no say. You have no say in national politics. You have no say in state politics. You have no say in local politics. The only place you have a say is inside your household if you're not a citizen. But DC, along with several other cities and states, have allowed non citizens to vote. And Congress, the House of Representatives, just once again passed a bill that would change that for DC, that DC cannot. And with the Republicans in Congress, having the Senate, it has a chance of making it to Trump's desk, and I'm sure Trump would sign it. But Eleanor Norton Holmes, she's not a happy camper about this.
They oppose this undemocratic paternalistic bill. I ask unanimous consent to submit into the record a letter from the Council of the District of Columbia opposing this bill.
Without objection, so ordered.
Last Congress, Republicans introduced 14 bills or amendments to prohibit non-citizens from voting in DC, or to repeal, nullify, or prohibit the carrying out of DC's law that permits non-citizens to vote.
Why would anybody want to have a non-citizen voting in their local elections? Why would you want to dilute one of the most precious rights you have as a citizen? That's your right to vote, to elect your local leaders. Why would you want that diluted by allowing non-citizens, people who have no allegiance to this country, to your state, to your city, to water down your vote by allowing them to vote? Now, I can understand certain elected officials wanting to allow non-citizens to vote because they can promise to do all kinds of things for non-citizens and get the non-citizen vote. And therefore, they get more power. But the vastly over liberal progressive left that runs DC as a city, well, they'd like getting the vote from the non-citizens.
Yet Republicans refuse to make the only election law change DC has asked Congress to make, which is the right to hold elections for voting members of the House and Senate.
You shouldn't. DC should not have any representation in the House or Senate. I disagree with you having that chair and the right to speak to the House and Senate as you do.
I want to discuss democracy or lack thereof in DC. DC has no voting representation in Congress, and Congress has the ultimate say on local matters. While Congress has the authority to legislate on local DC matters, it is not required to do so. In, in Federalist 43, James Madison said of DC residents, quote, a municipal legislature for local purposes derived from their own suffrages will, of course, be allowed them, close quote. The Supreme Court held in 1953 that, quote, there is no constitutional barrier to the delegation by Congress to the District of Columbia of full legislative power, end quote. DC's local legislature has 13 members. If DC residents do not like how the members vote, residents can vote them out or pass a ballot measure.
Once again, DC is supposed to be, it's under federal control, 100%. The House and the Senate control DC. Yeah, you've got a mayor. You have a local board for local issues. Okay. But you're not a damned state. I can understand why Democrats want to make you a state, because you're guaranteed to have a voting person in the House and 2 people in the Senate. A balance of power, a tipping of the power. But you're not a state. And it was designed that way intentionally. But you see, it's not just the members of the Republican House that are against this. Citizen voters have standing to challenge DC law permitting non-citizens to vote. 7 District of Columbia citizen voters filed a complaint challenging the constitutionality of Local Resident Voting Rights Amendment of 2022 DC 69 DC Reg 14601 a DC law permitting non-citizens to vote in municipal elections. The district court, without reaching the merits, held the plaintiffs lacked standing to sue and dismiss the complaint, but it got reversed. The plaintiffs have advanced a voter dilution claim predicated on the power of their ballots. They allege that the LRVRA causes displacement or dilution of the weight of a citizen's vote, which it does. From the expansion of the franchise. Logically, mathematically, that is true. Granting the franchise to non-citizens will expand the DC electorate and reduce the voting power of each U.S. citizen in local elections. Even the dumbest person, I could take a 5th grader. I could take somebody that's not even in elementary school, show them this, and they would, yeah. And the easiest way to do this, take a bunch of red marbles and a bunch of blue marbles. Red marbles represent citizen voters. then start adding in blue marbles. At which point, then, you start to get a point to where there's enough blue marbles that the red marbles vote don't count anymore. And I'm not even taking the red marbles and dividing them up amongst left and right. That's just your voters, your citizen voters. The Democrats have long played this game, and they very successful at it, of allowing people to vote knowing that those people will vote for them. That's I mean that's something that's been there for a long time that they have done this. And they know, it's allowing prisoners to vote. They're taking a gamble that most prisoners, most convicts, felony convicts who've lost their franchise to vote, they took a gamble that most of them will vote for them because they got that, out of gratitude. Well, they got us back our right to vote. We need to keep them in power. I mean, look how long that the Democrats have gotten the black vote ever since LBJ. And remember what LBJ said. And I'm not going to repeat all of it, of what he said. Let me look this up again because LBJ on okay, here we go. LBJ saying, I'll have them voting Democrat for 200 years. Now, come on, freaking pop-ups. He called the Civil Rights Act the N-word bill. And when he appointed Thurgood Marshall to the Supreme Court, he goes, when I appoint an N-word to the court, I want everyone to know he's an N-word. He and he's been right. It's only been since Trump that the black vote has gone from 99% Democrat to just, in the low 90s, upper 80s. And that's because of Trump. So we're not, when the Democrats, they've seen that LBJ was successful, and they've been playing this game ever since. rather than, trying to go with unifying the country, they've played this game of division and making people feel that, they owe the Democrats because the Democrats call them out specifically for their aid rather than trying to, what's good, instead of saying what's good for the country is what's good for, we're going to do what's good for you as a black man. We're going to do what's good for you as a black woman. We're going to do what's good for you as a woman. We're going to do what's good for you as a Hispanic, as a Somalian, as a Cuban. We're going, oh, you're from Venezuela? Well, yeah, we need to do this for you because you're from Venezuela. The divisive politics. And they've been rather successful with it. I can't deny that. They've been really successful with it. As much as I hate them for doing it, that's what they've managed to do. They've garnered power by fostering hate. Back to this bill here. The claimed injury is hardly an abstract as each voter experiences a direct reduction in vote of his or her individual and personal vote. The plaintiffs are seeking relief relating to their home jurisdiction and concerning an election in which they will participate. Unlike statewide theories of harm rejected in Gill, the plaintiffs here do not complain of harm in a different election that indirectly affects them, nor do they assert claims merely about the composition of D.C. municipal government writ large. Their claims turn exclusively on their individual votes and the power attached to that votes in the D.C. local elections. And once again, when you have large numbers of non-citizens voting, that automatically, dilutes the vote of the citizen. I just thought of another way of, take a picture of clear water. That picture of clear water represents citizens voting. Now start putting in a colored dye. Let's just because, let's use red dye. Start putting drops of red food coloring into it. How many drops of red food coloring does it take to turn that pitcher of clear water into pink or even red? That's the dilution of the vote. So this will be going to court now. And hopefully this argument will win. And I would love to see the lawyer arguing for the plaintiffs here to use that pitcher of water as an example. Actually bring a big pitcher of water and a bright red food dye or bright blue food dye, and use that to represent the dilution of the voting power. That would be amazing. I'd love to see that happen. But Norton is still fighting for this statehood. Here she is once again, and that from this past week or 3 weeks
Gentleman
ago. I'm
yields back.
sorry.
Chair recognizes Ms. Norton.
I apologize. This is from 3 weeks ago. So it's still quite recent that she's sitting there fighting for DC statehood.
Mr. Chairman, I strongly oppose this bill. The more than 700,000 District of Columbia residents are capable and worthy of self-government. I ask unanimous consent to submit into the record letters from the DC mayor and the DC council opposing this bill.
Without objection, so ordered.
This bill would repeal police discipline provisions in DC's Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act. Last Congress, Republicans introduced 7 bills or amendments to nullify or prohibit DC from carrying out from carrying that law or police discipline provisions thereof. Let's discuss the justification and timing of this bill, though it is always wrong and never the right time for Congress to legislate on local DC matters.
Well, that's their job. That is their job, to legislate on local DC matters. You may not like it. And hell, even Congress may not like it. But as we've learned, Congress doesn't like doing a lot of their jobs. That's why they pass it off and create agencies. Because they don't want it. They'd rather spend their time out glad hatting and buying votes than actually doing their job, pretending to be important, or more important than what they actually are, pretending to be better than the rest of us. So that's why we have so many federal agencies. Most of these agencies have no reason to exist other than the fact Congress didn't want to do their job. They gave the agencies power to have their own courts and to pass, and to pass rules that have the effects of law. Because when you can be imprisoned or you can have your property taken away from you, that, I don't care what they want to call it, it has the effect of a law, and that is something that should have went through Congress and been signed by the president.
The text of this bill says repealing the police discipline provisions is necessary to combat rising violence in DC and to improve the retention and recruitment of police officers. This committee may not be aware that violent crime reached a more than 30-year low in DC last year and is down 21% this year. This committee also may not be aware that police departments of all sizes in both red and blue states throughout the country are struggling to retain and recruit officers.
There's a lot of reasons why these cities and states are having a hard time recruiting officers, because people are getting tired of officers uh, the the there are, how can I put this? There are so many officers out there that have abused their power that police are being, people just hate cops because it's, that ever since they come out with, especially since they come out with this thin blue line mentality. But once again, Norton is sitting here saying that the residents, cannot consent to any action taken by Congress. She's once again pushing for statehood. Y'all know that how I feel about having a term limits. for Congress. As much as I dislike a lot of these congressional critters, the U.S. citizen has the right to select their representative, who they want to sit in the House of Representatives. I wish we would go back to the states appointing their senators, as that originally was. Senators should not be elected by the people. They should be appointed by the state. And when you have a senator voting against against the state, that state then has the right to remove that senator, because that's what the Senate is supposed to do, represent the states, as we all know. They don't do that anymore. Yeah, I don't make we need to get this Congress back to the way it was designed to be. And the first step would be get rid of people like Norton, who are representing people who are supposedly representing people in Washington, D.C. If you're not a state, you don't get a voice in the House of Representatives. It's that simple. If you're not a state, you don't get a voice. You don't get a voice in the Senate if you're not a state. The Senate is supposed to represent the states. That's why each state gets 2. What more can I mean? That's just the way I honestly believe it should be. There are very few things I fault in the original Constitution and the Bill of Rights as they were written. The Third Amendment, okay, that's probably the weakest in modern days of the amendments. But it still is a need there in principle that the government can't just put somebody in your house. The basic idea of that you own, that your house is your castle, and the government can't tell you you have to put someone in there. Not just quartering troops, but nobody. They can't tell you that you have to put somebody in there. That idea is something that still needs to be expressed today. How many people have out there saying that, if you have 2 homes, then the government should be putting the homeless or putting immigrants in one of them. If you own 2 houses. There's people out there that actually say that. I mean, today you can go on YouTube Shorts, you can go to TikTok, you can go to Blue Sky and find people that actually say that kind of stuff. But there's very little in the original Constitution that I've got any disagreement with, or that I found to be problematic. But if we want to actually go to what the Constitution here, the lack of statehood for the capitals is enshrined in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. The Congress shall have the power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over the district, not to exceeding 10 miles square, as may by session of a particular state and the exception of Congress, become the seat of government for the United States. Madison outlined the reasoning behind this in provision in Federalist 43, calling the arrangement indispensable necessity, the indispensable necessity of the complete authority at the seat of government carries its own evidence with it. Without it, not only the public authority might be insulted and its proceedings interrupted with impunity, but dependence upon the general government on the state comprehending the seat government for protection in the exercise of their duty might bring on the national consuls in the imputation of all influence, equally dishonorable to the government and dissatisfactory to the other members of the Confederacy. And no, not the Confederacy as in the Confederate government of the Civil War. No, that's not the Confederacy that Madison was talking about. But could you imagine Virginia if Washington, D.C. was located within the state of Virginia and Virginia had control over the properties surrounding the Capitol building and such? Considering how, I mean, screwed up the government of Virginia has been over the past 20 years, 20, 30 years. Now, or Maryland having control of DC. Again, not exactly a brilliant idea. But this is, this is one of the smart things within the Constitution that the power hungry want to have under their control, because that little bit of power that they can get. And the people, when they're voting for their Congress critter, when they're voting for their mayor, when they're voting for their city council members, and you can see it all the way down to your city councils or your county commissioners. You can see these people who have sat there in these powers for so long, and the people just keep voting for them. And again, you get the government you vote for. I'm not willing to say that you need to change, that you need to be forced to change out your elected representatives. I honestly believe that the person has the right to vote for who they want to vote for to represent them at all levels of the government. Spanky's popped up here on the couch to visit me. That reminds me. I gotta go change my infusion here again. But yeah, these guys have got to sit here, and the people that actually do the vote need to actually look at who they're voting for. And not just on the surface. Well, yeah, he's done this for me and he's done that for me. But has that person actually gotten too comfortable in that seat? I think it was George Carlin that said it. He said, members of Congress need to be changed like diapers for the same reason. And that goes for all elected officials. They become so full of themselves. That Paul, you're absolutely right. Without the 17th, there wouldn't be as much of talk for term limits for senators because when the people vote in a new state government, the Senate would change. You're absolutely right about that. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people in the House I don't like. There's a lot of people in the Senate I don't like because I don't like their politics. I mean, pencil neck shift for brains. If you can't tell, I don't like that man for multiple reasons because I absolutely refuse to show him any respect. And it's because of the way that he has acted while in elected office. I mean, he's got a wife and family that loves him. As an individual, when he's not sitting there in the halls of power, he may be a great guy because, like I said, he's got a wife that loves him. He's got a family that loves him, or at least I should hope they do. But then, they live in a multi-million-dollar mansion there in Maryland, and not in that 650 square foot apartment condo that he has in California. Even though he's a California senator, the house he owns in Maryland is 10 times the size of his official residence. Oh, man. When he goes home at night, he doesn't go back to California. He goes to that beautiful mansion that he bought. Just absolutely amazing. But that's the kind of person that needs to be voted out. His constituents that vote for him in California should be looking at, does he really represent us, or is he just representing himself and conning us into voting for him? This is what I honestly feel American publics need to be looking at when they vote. I know that's how I vote. Is I don't care if I'm voting for a judge. I don't care if I'm voting for the mayor, which I don't live I'm in the county. I don't have a mayor. But when I vote for a governor, am I voting for somebody that's gotten too damn comfortable having a seat of power? And they're no longer there for us, but for themselves to personally enrich themselves. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, the amount of power that woman's gained and personal wealth, $30 pints of ice cream in a $10,000 refrigerator. My God. But Paul, the American people we're not exactly innocent in all this. Because we have voted for these people to be in office. We're not innocent victims. Because we who do vote have voted for these people to be in office. And we haven't removed the people from office, voted out the people from office who have done the power grabs. Because by grabbing more power the way they have, then Now they're sitting in a position where it's harder to vote them out. I wish I could say otherwise, but as Franklin supposedly said, a republic as long as you can keep it. So, oh yes, my rant for the day. Christine, let's go into something else, okay? Christine Chenoweth rather. She sang for the NBA Finals last night. You know, the Thunder won the NBA Finals. And well, there's some people that have got some problems with the way that whoops, the way she sang the national anthem. Now, I'm gonna let y'all listen to how she sang. Then I'll have and I mean, just listen to this. Tell me what y'all think.
National anthem. Please welcome Emmy and Tony Award-winning actress and singer and Oklahoma native, Kristen Chenoweth.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free? And the home of the brave.
Okay, there you go. What do y'all think? Now, I've heard a lot worse. I I've heard a lot worse at the NBA or at NFL games. I've heard a lot worse at NASCAR. I've heard a lot worse in a lot of different places. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Clicked the wrong button. A lot of people don't like her. Didn't like it. They said she sounded like she was singing for Broadway or from an opera. Now, that high note that she hit hurt my ears. And not just because she got so loud, but I don't Sopranos and I do not get along. It's worse than a fingernail scratching on a chalkboard for me. My mom sang soprano, and during church services, I couldn't sit within about 4 people of her because I just cringed at, oh. Okay. I was not aware of that, Ramen. But I mean, like I said, I've heard a lot worse. I can understand some people giving it hate because if you're a purist, that's not the way the song was written. But then, as a purist, and you have to understand that the music that the national anthem was set to, that the poem was set to, is an English bar drinking song. So, there's that. The tune was not written specifically. The tune was not written for the national anthem. It was written to be sang in a bar, an English pub. So I can understand some people not liking it, but hey, what can I say? She doesn't deserve a bunch of hate for it either. Now, unless y'all got anything, let me check news cycle here real quick, see if anything's popped up in the last little bit that we need to talk about, and I am not seeing anything new popped up. So oh, this woman here is hilarious. This isn't new. This is from a couple days ago, but I've seen it now and I laugh every time I watch it because this woman is so angry.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Tiernan, and on Saturday after leaving the No Kings protest, I was struck.
Color me surprised that you were at the No Kings protest as a protester. I mean, I'm assuming that's her natural hair color. And by the looks of it, it hasn't been washed in months. She's, I mean, she's got the hippie beads on. She doesn't wear the hippie. She's not wearing the hippie glasses, really. The clear frames have been around for a while, but she's got the septum ring in. So, yeah, color me shocked that she was a protester at the No Kings protest.
And injured by a motor vehicle while leaving the protest.
So why were you walking where you could be injured by a motor vehicle going down the street?
The cops here in Catskill, New York, took several days to get an accident report together. and they would not give me any information. They never interviewed me after the accident. I've been asking for information for days because I've been very traumatized by this event. And
Oh, I've been traumatized. I'm afraid of cars now. I can't go anywhere near a car because I'm making bet she's so traumatized. I'm sure that's not the first time that she's said that something has traumatized her. Just my gut feeling tells me that this isn't the first time that she's claimed to have been traumatized.
now, in order to re traumatize me, the cops here in Catskill are telling me that it's my fault that I put my human body in the street to be hit by a motor vehicle.
Well, were you pushed into the street? Did an invisible force shove you out into the street from the safety of the sidewalk where you're supposed to walk? Did somebody put a gun to your head and force you out into the street? I mean, tell me how this happened that you got out into the street, into the path of the oncoming car. I'm a little curious about that. I mean, if it's not your fault, that means some outside force pushed you into that, caused you to be in the path of that vehicle as it was driving down where it was supposed to be.
The people in the motor vehicle actually got out and started screaming in my face after they had struck me. I spent the rest of the day in the hospital having x-rays and MRIs, CAT scans on my pelvis and on my head.
Did they happen to comment about the size of your brain? Because an interesting fact I found out after I had my head MRI'd. All right, that my brain has actually shrunk over the years, that your brain shrinks as you age. And I was not really and truly aware of that until I had the doctor sit there and tell me, look me square in my face and say, yes, you've got some brain shrinkage, but it's normal for your age group. I'm sitting there going, what do you mean brain shrinkage? Well, yeah, as you age, your brain shrinks. Oh, I didn't know that. Ramen, you're probably right. You're probably right about that.
And they never came to check on me. They never came to ask me any questions. They never did anything.
Who's this they? The drivers of the car or the police? Because the police don't need to come check on you. That's not their job. Unless, you die and then the hospital notify them that you died. Motors, do you think that, the people that you stepped in front of, why would they want to come check on you? I'd be more worried about washing my car and getting, your funky body oils off of my vehicle and make certain that there was no damage to my vehicle.
And now they're giving me a citation for being in the road. So,
As it should be. I mean, jaywalking and being in the road is against the law and local ordinances in most states and cities in the country. Hey, Digi, good morning.
honestly, I think that's a bunch of crap. And I'm very, very upset because I want to press criminal charges against this person who hit me. And the cops just handed me a fucking citation saying that it's my fault, that my fragile human body got hit by a motor vehicle after the protest.
Again, the only way it cannot be your fault the only ways is one, the car drove up on the sidewalk to hit you, or two, someone shoved you in front of the car. Some force put you in front of the car. Okay. Or the car ran a red light or stop sign. I mean, that's how it can be their fault. But if you simply walked out in front of the car and the car had right of way, you weren't in a pedestrian crosswalk or anything like that, well, then, I'm sorry, but it's not the driver's fault that you got hit. That's, woman, you're at least 50 years old looking at the gray in your head. Dear, would you say this woman's at least 50 by looking at her?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and even my wife, who's very generous with somebody's age, is agreeing that this woman's at least 50.
Okay. I'm gonna go to Wonderworks.
Oh, you taking Matthew to Wonderworks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, y'all have fun. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you. All right.
Love ya.
I love you too.
Mwah.
Yep. I'm taking them out there. You said you didn't want to go.
All right. Well,
This is a good time for us to go.
okay. Well, have fun.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
And I will see her back in time for dinner. She's, let's see, 30-minute drive, well, 20-minute drive out to get my grandson. Then an hour to an hour and a half drive to where she's taking him. Then they'll be there for at least 2 to 3 hours. So that's 6, 7, 8 hours. Yeah, she'll be back between 6:30 and 8 o'clock tonight. So she deserves the citation. This woman fully caused this accident, caused this collision between her fragile, frail human body.
I have not yet seen the videos. They refuse to show them to me without a FOIL request, which of course I will file. That's all I have to say for now. But protect and serve? I don't think so.
Oh, poor lady. Her Ramen, I can't get her to bring me back a shake. So, ah. Well, okay, this is looking like that is about all I got. I don't see anything new popping up in the news over the last 2 hours. So, take a look and see Thunder, uh, Walton's act. House passes Trump's education overhaul, forcing colleges to pay for student loan defaults. Oh, interesting. Probably something to look into tomorrow. Because student loan defaults is something I have got I've got a problem with. So, all right, everybody. Y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Try to stay out of trouble. A haircut going to the Supreme Court. Oh, interesting. But y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. The wife wants me to, gave me an ultimatum last night. Either I make her some more Reese's ice cream or I don't get to make any more ice cream. So, and I want to make some more ice cream. So I've got to make her Reese's ice cream. I bought the Reese's minis. But everybody, y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Try to stay out of trouble. If you can't stay out of trouble, have as much fun getting out of it as you did getting into it. And of course, be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. And have a good day. Bye, y'all.